Hi, this is Jolene with Jolene's Books and Writers Talk podcast. This is another edition with another great author. This time we are talking to Jimmy Deas, a Christian fiction writer. Tells some great stories, both in his books, on the pulpit, as he is a preacher, and also on his columns. He has a Facebook page as well as a newspaper column that he writes articles every week for. So take it away, Mr. Jimmy.
Jimmy Deas. I'm a retired pastor, which is kind of a misnomer because pastors don't ever get to retire. But I did retire from full-time ministry 10 and a half years ago, still stay active doing things. And of course, I've had the time to write my books during that period of time. I live in Live Oak with my wife, Sherry, and beyond that, there isn't really a whole lot to say about me.
I understand that you have maybe, is it 10 books now?
8 books, and there will be 10 when I finish the 2 that I'm working on.
Good. It's always good to be working. And overall, what is your genre?
I would say everything that I've got is faith-based. My novels, the 4 novels that I've written, and I'm working on number 5 in the series. My main character is a Baptist pastor, which I've got a lot of experience in that. And it's not a churchy book. It combines a lot of intrigue, mystery, suspense, along with love, redemption. Really, it is about people. A lot of my ideas have come from people that I've known over the years of my ministry. I place my book settings in small towns, small North Florida towns, because that's where I grew up, mostly pastored. I know those kind of situations. And sometimes people just don't realize that even in small towns, there are a lot of interesting things that go on. There can be positive things, negative things. There can be triumph and victory, but there also could be heartbreak and sadness. And so a lot about people and things that happen to them that just interact with my main character, who is the Baptist pastor, and things that he has to deal with. Now, some of my other books, I refer to them as stories books because they're kind of compilations of my Facebook blogs, as well as a weekly newspaper column that I write. And so stories where I just compile a lot of these, Jolene, and publish them in a book. And those seem to be very popular. People, judging from the sales anyway, people like to read things about other people and about what other people deal with and go through. And my hope is that as people buy those books and read those stories about people, they may be encouraged to, keep on trying or to whatever. And part of it is just to, some of the stories are in there, like the one this morning. I don't know that it'll ever make it to a book. Some of it would come out of the silly category, but sometimes I like to write things that will make people laugh because honestly, we live in a world where people need something to laugh and smile about occasionally. So I try to do that as well with some of my writing.
So all of your books are on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. All are on Amazon. One of my novels, Ran Like Joseph, is also available to Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, and can be ordered from any local bookstore.
Okay, so you published that wide, or Amazon did that for you?
That is published through Christian Faith Publishing.
As an author, how do you market what do you find effective?
I use a variety of things. Of course, everything is on Amazon, and hopefully I may get a little bit of help from them. I do a monthly ad on Facebook, and usually after I do that, I notice that there's a spike, an increase in orders from Amazon. And I take advantage of every book signing opportunity that I can. I have been fortunate to be in some really good, prestigious book signing events, such as the Sunshine State Book Festival, the Amelia Island Book Festival. But I'll take advantage of any local opportunity. And then another thing that I do in my retirement is speak to senior adult groups at church. And that's part of my agreement that I can take my books, and if anyone is interested, they can buy books there as well. So I just try to, I guess like most independent authors, use every avenue possible to try to sell some books.
I've seen your posts about having book signings at local bookstores. There's not a lot of local bookstores in our area, but you have been participating recently, I understand. How did that come about?
Okay, I haven't had too many at bookstores. As you say, local bookstores are kind of dying out, I think, in the past. And some of the local bookstores, if they're not really acquainted, if you don't have a name that people recognize, and I don't, then it's kind of difficult to get into even the local bookstores. There's one over in Madison, Florida, and she approached me about doing a book signing. I did that, I think, last year. That may have been the only real bookstore that I've been in. Some of the libraries, I've been invited to libraries to do book signings. That's about it.
Madison is the one I was thinking about. That's the only one I know of, really. It's a new bookstore in our area, but you haven't done any in Jacksonville or Tallahassee.
No, I have been, someone has suggested a couple of bookstores in Jacksonville that I may be able to connect with and do a book signing. Also talking to some other places. And aside from this, how things come about, we never know where we're going to get a contact. I recently was contacted by a lady in Knoxville, Tennessee, that had read one of my books. Next, not this October of 24, I'm scheduled to be their yearly speaker at the meeting of this book club, which kind of amazes me. I'm excited about it. So we'll see what transpires in the Tennessee area.
Wow, that's exciting and different. I understand that I got the email today about the Amelia Island Books Festival. They just opened it up. Are you going to be participating in that?
Yes, I was thrilled when I got my email this morning, and I plan to be in that one next year. Quite an event. I was in it for the first time this past year, and when you're sitting a few feet away from distinguished, well-known authors like those that were there, Scott Turow and some of the others, it gives you kind of a funny feeling to be in the room with those kind of folks. David Baldacci, I guess, was the biggest name that was there. A couple of ladies, Jeanette Walls was one. I can't remember the other lady that was there. The celebrity authors don't spend all day like the rest of us do. They come in for a couple of hours. They have a scheduled time that they come in. And people that have pre-bought their books, then they have the opportunity to get that book signed by the celebrity artist. But yes, I'm going to get my application in just as quickly as I can.
Well, I also got an email from the Writers Alliance of Gainesville. They sent out early
No,
invitations.
I didn't join, but I'm sure I will be getting that. And I have talked to one of in fact, she's past president, I believe. Talked to a lady a few months ago, and she was telling me about the plans for this next year's festival, and I'm excited about it. I think it may be a better venue and work out a little bit better than what we had last year.
It's going to be at a hotel right on one of the main roads. So hopefully it'll bring in it's going to be a wild event. Got to take lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would suggest to newish authors who are trying to break in to the indie author field? What is your top 3 advice points?
I would say try to find a local group of writers and get involved. When I started writing, it was purely by accident. I never intended to publish a book. And if a friend of mine he had published 2 or 3 books, I guess, actually contacted me and encouraged me to start publishing, I never would have done it. And so a lot of what I did was trial and error, messed up a lot of things, had to learn the hard way. And I think if aspiring writers would get into a local group and get ideas from people who have already been down that road, they've made those mistakes, and they can help them out and give them advice about formatting and publishing. And, as you know, all the things that go into it. It can be rather overwhelming, daunting, discouraging. So I'd say get all the help you can. And the second thing I would tell anybody, I've had several people. In fact, I was contacted this past week by a man in Lake City. And from what bit he told me, I think maybe he would have interesting content for a book. He is someone whose family has been in Columbia County for generations, and he has accumulated evidently some of those stories passed down through his family for decades and decades. And he sees the need, or at least he would like to record these stories and get them published. He's just overwhelmed by the whole prospect of that and wants to know how to do it. But when someone like that contacts me, the one piece of advice I do give them is start writing. Don't put it off. Too many people want to see the finished product up front. And as you well know, you just have to start. And it eventually, if it's meant to be, it'll work its way. It'll get on paper and it'll get published. So that's the 2 things. Start writing, get into a local group where you can get some help.
Okay, there's not a local group in Columbia County, or there used to be, but after COVID hit, a lot of them went away, and I haven't heard any announcements for any new ones that were meeting at the library. at least not in the
The,
last 12 months.
the only ones that I'm personally aware of is Writers Inc. down in Mayo that meets weekly. There is a group of Christian writers that meet monthly at Corinth Baptist Church in Lowndes County, Georgia. I attended one of those meetings a couple of weeks ago, and they have access to resources that would be very helpful.
Add them to my list. I have a listing of local groups on one of my websites trying to help authors connect to online groups or in-person groups or however it is you would like to meet.
This is Word Weavers. You may have heard of that. Word Weavers, I think.
Okay.
They gave me some of the material. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
An online group called the Lively Ladies Literary Group, and we've been meeting for a couple of years. It's just 5 or 6 of us, but we meet once a month on Zoom, and we reread what we've written and we talk about it. We talk about business, and with online tools, it would be easier to form local ones. So if anybody out there wants another group, let me know. We'll get one going. The next portion I would like to ask, if you don't mind, is what are the top 3 things that you spend money on for your book? Like book designers, editors, marketing. I know you said Facebook ads. That's an expense.
Facebook ads, and of course the expenses of entering some of the shows. Now I'm very fortunate and blessed when it comes to a proofreader. I have a retired school teacher who taught college level English for years. This is a lady I've never met. She taught here in Live Oak, retired, and moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. Actually, she's the reason I'm getting in invite up there next year. I have or someone, a mutual friend gave her one of my books, and she called me and she said, I'd love to be your proofreader. And so she does this, and it doesn't cost me a penny there. I know some folks, you do have to pay somebody to do your proofreading and formatting and things like that. But my main thing is the ads that I buy, and Facebook ads are very reasonable, by the way. I would encourage folks to at least take a look at those things. Each month I will promote a book or maybe 2 or 3 books, whatever, but I buy an ad and usually limit it to about $15, and which runs for about 5 or 6 days. And it's amazing. You can reach hundreds and hundreds of people with that small expenditure.
Cool. That'll be something I can look forward to in October. I'm planning out my digital marketing strategy for my stories I'm trying to get done. But I'm writing 2 at once, and I don't, other than going to book signing events and festivals. You do your own covers?
Yes, yes, I do. But which I just enjoy doing. Over 45, 46 years ago, prior to entering the ministry, as I tell people, in a previous lifetime, I had an 8-year career with Sears, and one of my jobs was the arrangement and display of merchandise all through the store. So I had a little bit of background experience on putting things together and making up displays and things like that. And then on top of that, my wife is an artist. She is an acrylic painter. So between the 2 of us, we come up with ideas for the covers. And I try to, well, this is my somewhat attempt at being professional, I guess. The cover should be a reflection of the content of the book.
Right.
And so we look for something that reflects the content of the book, and then I use the templates that Amazon has, and that's how I put mine together.
Okay. That was my next question, which
in fact, some of the photos that I've used on the front on my books, I actually took the photos myself.
Nice. Okay. Well, if it works for you, it works for you. You offer your books in ebook and paperback.
Yes. Yes. And I would encourage that. It's, as you well know, there's not a lot of profit to be made with ebooks, but it gets your stuff out there. And it's amazing to me how many people are using their readers these days. I used to think it was a young person's thing, but I have learned that a lot of us senior adults love those readers as well. So I do it both ways, yes.
Well, it's because now you can make the words bigger.
True, this is true. Yes, I had a lady tell me that just recently. I was waiting in a lobby in a doctor's building for my wife, and I got to talking to this lady and about the books and asked her why she used the reader. And that's what she laughed, and she showed me she expanded the size. She said, this is one reason that I use this, because I can make it bigger.
Probably the last thing that I wanted to talk about is, what is your take on the artificial intelligence question? Have you been reading about that at all?
A little bit. I'm not an expert. Let me say that right up front. Not an expert. Done a little bit of reading about it. Hardly it scares me. This is just me. Okay. Again, I'm not an expert.
Oh, okay.
Uh, it's part of the what I would call the dehumanizing process. It eliminates the human factor in so many things. Well, I guess I'm speaking for other writers as well. But when I write, what I do write expresses a lot of feeling and emotion. When I write stories about people, I try to get their words and express, what they have been through, whether it be a traumatic event or if it was a glorious, happy, joyous event, but to include that the human feelings and emotion. From what little bit I understand, that's going to be missing from the AI. One of my sisters said, I guess it was an article or something the other day about a church in Europe that was experimenting with AI preaching, sermon, and everything. And again, as a pastor full time for 36 years, and then still the last 10 and a half, I've stayed busy preaching in churches. I can say that for myself and every preacher that I have personally known, there is passion, there is emotion that is part preaching, and AI is not going to be able to inject that, to make that a part of a sermon. So, yeah, I've got a lot of concerns about it.
Yes, me too. I've tried playing with some of the tools, and the best that I've ever gotten was an outline that I could expand upon. There are authors out there, or scammers, that took the AI and created books and then deluged onto Amazon recently. And so that's kicking everybody else because it's a new toy.
I'm being a little facetious here, but see that takes away the element of frustration as we had to put together that outline. Actually, I'm not frustrated to me, one of the enjoyable parts of doing the book is when I think about a novel. I just take a notepad and sit down and start making notes. I think about the characters that I want in the book. I try to envision what they would look like, an appropriate name for them, and then slowly work through the plots and even what kind of personality they would have, because that I try to put that in my book. The personality then determines their role in the book and their actions and behavior and all of that. So when I say the using the AI takes away the frustrating part of it, I'm being a little facetious, although it can get frustrating, but it's still part of the satisfaction of putting the novel together.
Is there anything you would like to tell your potential future readers?
I just hope I've got future potential readers out there on that. I would say, and honestly, I believe I'm not trying to promote just what I write. I'd like to think that I represent a good number of Christian or faith-based writers out there. I honestly believe that there is a good market for faith-based books. Jan Karon, that wrote the Mitford Chronicles several years ago, marvelous, marvelous books. If you haven't read hers, by the way, take the time. If you're a person that likes Christian or faith-based literature, her series is wonderful. I believe there are a lot of folks out there that would like to read something that is interesting and entertaining and is not filled with crudeness or lewdness. You know what I'm saying there. And so if there are folks out there that like to read those kind of things, that's what I write. Maybe there'll be some folks that say, hey, I'd like to read that guy's stuff.
Absolutely. You don't have a newsletter because you don't have a website, right?
No, but you and I are going to talk about that. That's one of those things I have kept putting off. I have several unfinished projects from this spring because, and I'm grateful for this, the first 6 months of this year got a whole lot busier than I ever thought that it would. In the past several weeks, I have preached all the way from Lake Park, Georgia to Clearwater, Florida, and from here to McClenny. So I've been on the go, and it's been busy. But I'm grateful for it. I'm not complaining at all. But in the process of all that, a lot of my projects didn't get done. And discussing a website with you was one of them, my dear friend. I have a Facebook authors page. People can follow me. Go to Jimmy Deas author, Jimmy Deas author, and they can follow me on there, and that's where I do a lot of promotion about my books and things like that. But
Do you mind me giving them the iCloud email, or would you prefer another one?
oh no, they can give that one. That's the one that's on my business cards.
Okay.
Put there, and folks are free to contact me on that email.
Absolutely. We got to get you out there and keep you working, keep you young
Yeah,
at heart.
as I tell people, keep me off the streets and out of trouble.
I don't know about that out of trouble thing. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to doing this.